The place I used to work at has been doing a lot of lists lately. That's what you do when you don't have games and we have to fill space. Content now is at a premium. But they actually had a list that I thought was kind of interesting, and it's timely, too. The top 10 all-time NBA players was introduced by ESPN. Number 1 is Michael Jordan. I'm not going to argue it. That's a topic for another show. What's interesting, though, number 2, LeBron James, is a current Laker. Number 3 is Kareem, a former Laker. Number 5, Magic. 6, Wilt, Lakers. 9, Kobe. 10, Shaq, Lakers. Number 7, Larry Bird, rival to the Lakers, as was Bill Russell, number 4. This, of course, is another reason to restart the NBA season. You have to remember, the number 1 brand in the NBA right now is LeBron. The Lakers are number 2 because the NBA has succeeded without the Lakers being relevant for the last 10 years, 8 years, 7 years. The Eastern Conference collapsed on television when LeBron left it. Much like the NBA lost 50% of its ratings when MJ left. There is no other MJ, and there is no other LeBron. For years and years, think of the rich history in golf. I argued with golf purists, guys with like 1 handicaps. Rory's going to be the next guy, and this kid and that kid, and there is no other Tiger Woods. It's why I never understood the criticism. Just hug him, embrace him, and love him. He's a comet. He's a meteor. Like Michael Jordan, there is no duplication. Tiger Woods from 99 to 03 won 32 tournaments. Next closest was 8. We had a term, it was called the Tiger Slam. We never had to use it before because nobody really thought it was possible. What do you call it when a guy won all 4 majors? Folks, there's no other Tiger. There's no other Michael Jordan, and frankly, there's no other LeBron. I don't want to hear about Kawhi, who's a wonderful player, but he doesn't talk. Giannis is spectacular, but he's in Milwaukee, he's international, and his game isn't really glamorous. Oh, there's Kevin Durant, but he can be snippy, aloof, and a little distant and moody. He doesn't feel like the face of a league, just really talented. There's James Harden, but I find his game at times unwatchable. And there's Zion, who's remarkable, but a kid. We don't know how good he'll be. And frankly, can that kid stay healthy? The closest thing we have to LeBron James in this league as a face is Steph Curry. He's now sneaky old. He gets hurt a lot. He's kind of private, a family guy, and doesn't feel like he'd be as comfortable being the face of the league. When you had Jeter and A-Rod, get them on television. You're never going to have a Jeter-A-Rod combination. 2 great guys, 2 good-looking guys on the number 1 franchise in baseball. You just put them on TV, regardless of what network you are. When LeBron and the Lakers come back, if in a very bumpy season you have an opportunity to get it done, you do. Don't kid yourself. This has been a rough NBA season. 1 year ago today, guys like me were talking about, the duos that were going to happen next year. Think of how ugly this season has been. The death of David Stern, the death of Kobe Bryant, the multiple stars injured, the China debacle. This has really been, by and large, a mess. How do you save it? LeBron and the Lakers. 6 of the 10 all-time best players in this league are Lakers. 2 others, Russell and Bird, are tied to the Lakers. You don't get LeBron again. This is it. There's never going to be a high school kid good enough to walk into the NBA and drop 20, 10, and 8 his first game. And oh, by the way, never get in trouble, elevate others, smart, thoughtful, mindful, start schools. That's it. Just appreciate him, put your arms around him. You're not going to get that again. You're never going to get a player like Michael Jordan, who was the best looking guy in the league and the most glamorous guy in the league. And he was polished and refined because he had amazing parents. And then Dean Smith, and then Phil Jackson, and then David Falk. Everybody supporting David Stern, Phil Jackson, unbelievable parents, Dean Smith. That's not going to happen again. There's no more Tigers. Never forget this, that Michael Jordan in 98, you're watching the documentary, that final got nearly 30 million viewers. Now think about that. That's double what our college football national championship gets. $30 million. The NBA Finals didn't average over 20 for 18 years. That was with LeBron. Okay? So LeBron is the closest thing in terms of big and glamour and dominant. When I used to watch Michael Jordan play, I used to always think, man, there's a gap between Michael and number 2. When you watch LeBron play and the number 2 is Kevin Durant or Kawhi, yeah, that's a big gap. You have to take advantage, if at all possible, on LeBron James and the Lakers, because frankly, you're never going to get it again. The Bulls were irrelevant. They were a Midwest franchise that had won about 50% of their franchise games. You're never going to get A-Rod Jeter to the Yankees again. Dynamic, big stars, controversial, good-looking. It just doesn't happen. So when you get it, take advantage of it. My friend Nick Wright joining us via the Cowherd Global Satellite Network, sponsored by Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing, has not been out of his house for 2.5 months, so he doesn't want to hear my pity and nonsense. I mean, it's...
Colin just strolling, beautiful Manhattan Beach, now back in the studio. I'm in the heart of Harlem in New York City, just boarding up windows, but I'm happy for you, Colin. By the way, you look nice and tan. Thanks. Good to see you.
Yeah, I've been outside some. Anywho, all right, let's start with this. So my former employer put up a top 10 all-time players, and we can argue about it. But do you believe that because of the documentary, LeBron's 2 and Michael's 1, and that there is some recency bias with that? And a lot of these lists now that are ending up on the internet, it's a lot of MJ 1, LeBron 2, and not much of a discussion or a debate by most. Do you think that the documentary to some degree is shaping that or reshaping it?
So I do, to a degree, but maybe not the way you're thinking it. But a couple things. First of all, credit to your former employer. I think they did a very good job with their top 10. Their top 9, they have Wright slightly out of order. 7 should be Duncan, 8 should be Kobe, 9 should be Bird. West and Oscar should be 10 and 11. Shaq should be 13, and obviously they have Michael and LeBron flipped. But for the Shaq is 13th and they have him 10th. They're very, very close to exactly right. And by exactly right, I mean my list, which is, of course, the official default list everyone should defer to. But to answer your question, Colin, here's what I've noticed with the Michael documentary. We've got a lot of the most adamant, ardent Jordan fans thinking a lot about LeBron during this doc. I hear a lot of LeBron's not to talk about it. I'm trying not to bring up LeBron during the doc, and we have a lot of Jordan folks that either call my radio show or do television shows that seem to be shoehorning a discussion about a player who entered the league 5 years after the doc was finished into this discussion. So I think there's a word for that. I think it's insecurity and anxiousness about the fact that LeBron, if he has not already passed Jordan as he has, that he will in short order. But yeah, for the moment, he might get a nostalgia bump, but those bumps fade, as we see with politicians at times, get a temporary bump from a crisis, and then it fades as things go on. So yeah, I see that somewhat, but I'm not too concerned by it.
Let me shift to Shaq talking about bail on the season because of an asterisk. And to that I say, life is going to be nothing but asterisks for 12 to 18 months, and sports has all sorts of inequities, financial, geographic. It's just the reality of sports, and we don't use an asterisk. And oh, by the way, is the world of sports better with the NBA playing now? Yes. And I think you just can't be too rigid, regardless of what league or sport or commissioner you are. What did you make of Shaq's comments and the encouraging sign this week that Adam Silver and the players appear to be willing to play at a centralized site?
Yeah, listen, I think it would be fantastic for all parties involved if the NBA can resume. I think it's so much easier for professional sports to resume than collegiate sports for obvious reasons. And I do think the NBA is going to find a way to get this season in. Listen, if we end up with an NBA Finals of Grizzlies Heat, we're going to say, okay, this was pandemic influence. The NBA is the one sport where basically every single year the champion is either the 1, the 2, or the 3 seed. And if we end up with some bizarre finals, then we'll say, okay, maybe we'll remember it a little bit differently. But I don't think that's going to happen, first of all. And second of all, I have found the discussion surrounding if this postseason happens, will it count fully, very interesting. Because what you are seeing, and I apologize for bringing up LeBron again, but what you are seeing is the folks out there who have staked their claim on LeBron being overrated or his era is over or the reason he's not in the GOAT discussion is rings or failures in the finals, they don't know which side to stake out on. Do I say there's an asterisk and this year doesn't count, but then if LeBron loses, I can't use it against him? But if I say the year does count, if he wins, he gets credit for it. I'm in this glass box of emotion. And so you have folks that want to be able to reverse engineer their opinion on this in regards to LeBron. So I will stake my claim immediately. This year counts. Everyone's got to deal with the same circumstances. It's not ideal, but as you mentioned, nothing's ideal for anyone right now. The champion this year is the champion. The team that I happen to believe benefits from this the most, if anyone benefits from it, is the Clippers, because health and rest was, of all the contenders, they had the biggest question mark on. But I still think pre-pandemic, Lakers-Bucks was going to be the finals. That was my preseason pick, mid-season pick, and it's my right now pick. Lakers-Bucks should be the finals. No asterisk needed.
Cam Newton has never been my favorite, but I do think he fits in Pittsburgh really well. For a quarterback that needs to be pushed, is often hurt, with a Super Bowl roster but bad backup quarterbacks. Where I don't think he fits or is needed is Seattle, and we have two stories now in the last 2 days. Seattle thought of trading Russell Wilson to the Browns, outrageous. And let's bring in Cam, because, Russell, oh, wait, he is a workaholic who never gets hurt and is all about team. I said this morning as I was preparing for this, rarely do I get angry with a story. Cam fits, but maybe no place less than Seattle. What did you make of the stories and rumors about Russell Wilson, Cam, and the rest?
Okay, so I made a lot of it. The first one was, when I saw that Chris Sims had said the Seattle Seahawks, I read it at about 1 a.m. last night, that Chris Sims, I should have been in bed already, was saying that the Seahawks had considered trading Russell Wilson for Baker Mayfield. I said, it's 1 a.m. in New York. That means it's 10 at night in L.A. Colin's a kind of old man. He's probably already sleeping, but damn it, I want to call and make sure he's okay. Like, I am worried about him. Like, if they traded maybe your all-time favorite player for Baker, I don't know if you'd have been, I feel like you'd have never gone back to your home state. You'd have just been like, I'm done with you forever. This is an outrage. You might have quit the business.
Yes.
So I was concerned for your well-being on that story. Now, as far as Cam, if I were to rank all 32 teams, if I were advising Cam, the 32nd place I would tell him to go was Seattle. They have the second best quarterback in football. He never misses time. And by the way, they don't even like throwing the football, evidenced by the fact they thought about trading him. So why would you go there? He'd be better off going to Kansas City, because at least Mahomes, we've seen he's missed time with injuries. Seattle should be Cam's literal last choice. The hierarchy for Cam, the top 5 should be New England and Jacksonville, because he'd be the instant starter. They should be at the top. And then 3 places that have aging quarterbacks that we don't know if they'll make it through the season, or we don't know what they'll be doing next season. Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, and maybe my favorite new Cam Newton option, Tampa Bay. Let's just see if what old Tampa Brady's got left, and maybe Cam can fit, because I feel like Cam fits in great with Bruce Arians. Those should be his top 5. Seattle should be dead last.
By the way, I want to circle back to the documentary, The Last Dance. Now, as you referenced, I'm an older gentleman. And so I grew up with Jordan. I'm not learning anything new. It's mostly amplifying what I knew. But and I'm not a stroll down memory lane guy. It's not, I don't bring up Red Grange for football topics. It's not my DNA. But I have enjoyed a ton of it because I like good storytellers. And there's a lot of great stories in the documentary. Can you acknowledge, though, the one thing about Jordan is that he was a unique combination of great, glamorous, blue-collar work ethos and coastal cool, and that there is something about Jordan that is unique all time. Most great, Kevin Durant's great, but he's not glamorous or always cool. That Jordan does have a mystique that has been earned, and can you acknowledge that he was special and unique?
Of course. Unlike the Jordan fans, like that LeBron might one day be top 10. I don't take anything away from Michael Jordan. He's one of the 5 greatest American athletes ever. He's one of the 2 greatest basketball players ever. He is the most marketable athlete ever. He held the all-time greatest championship belt for 93 to 2016. For 23 years. That is longer than any player in any sport had ever held it, except for probably in any of the major team sports, I should say, aside from Gretzky. Good for him. Like, yes, I got nothing against Michael, and so no, I agree with all of that. And by the way, LeBron will never sell as many shoes. LeBron will never be as universally beloved as Michael was. All LeBron has to fall back on is he luckily happens to be a better basketball player, which does, is relevant to this discussion. And before I go, because I feel badly because you're back in studio, today's a great day, and I made you seem old, and I didn't mean to. Listen, you're a little older than me, but you're rich LA old, which means you're actually 10 years younger than your birth certificate says, so you're fine. Don't worry about it. You got 40 years easy coming.
Nick Wright, first things first. Good seeing you, buddy. Pleasure. Thanks, man.
Miss you, pal. Talk to you later.
Yeah. I got to show up on his radio show the other day as a surprise guest, which was really fun for me.
That's fun.
It was fun.